Welcome to the Stircast, a podcast where we dive deep into the stories, the struggles, and the successes behind the kitchens of the Southern Tier. Each episode will sit down with the chefs and owners who bring their passions to life on every plate, shaping the vibrant dining culture of our Southern Tier community. Let's stir things up. I am your co-host, Brian Egan, here with my co-host, Rick Dodd. Rick, how are you today?
I'm doing well, Brian. I'm glad to be here. We finally have a platform that we can reach out to our community members and give them some information about our restaurants locally.
I think we will just be able to highlight all of the talent in this area. We have so many great chefs, so many great owners. So we're ready to get started here with episode 1. We have Dan Polhamus, owner-operator of Food and Fire and Iron Agave here in downtown Binghamton. Dan is a Binghamton native, worked as a dishwasher starting up, worked his way up, years of hard work, is now a multi-restaurant owner. Dan, we're thrilled to have you here. Give us a little bit of background on yourself and your experience.
Well, first of all, thanks for having me, Rick and Brian. This is an awesome idea. Let's stir things up together.
Let's do it.
So a little bit about my background. Like you said, I was introduced at a young age to washing dishes. That was over at Grande's on Front Street when I was a Shenango Forks kid. I went there and made a little extra money and learned the hard way. They did not have a dishwasher there. They did a lot of baked manicotti and all that kind of fun stuff. It's a lot of fun to scrape that off my hand. And you'd think you're about done for the night, and then all the pizza tins would come back. So it was a hard job, but I learned under Vinny over there and to learn how to work hard. And, despite the wrinkled fingers and dishpan hands, I fell in love with the business. And in some way, shape, or form, I was always involved in hospitality, right up until today.
Well, Dan, I got to ask you one question. I've known you for about 25 years now, and you once sat in my lounge when we were in Vestal and said, Rick, I really don't want to be in a restaurant because I don't want to be 50 and still be running around the kitchen, and I think you're there.
I think that's what's called a self-fulfilling prophecy, Rick. Well, I remember those days. Of course, Jane and I were dating, and she had a wonderful time working with you, and you and Sil threw some epic holiday parties. I'm pretty sure this was some wine was being drank, and I was working, I think, at Outback at the time and trying to finish up schooling. And yeah, I had seen in my time in the restaurant business certain people burn out in this business. I think everybody has a different length wick when it comes to how long you can do this. And I think that just like you, we found some levers that we need to pull to be able to have longevity in this business. You need to have a life outside of work. You need to have people you can count on. Your family has to be supportive. You need to have a good foundation at home. And some of those things are fortunately in place for me. And I love what I do. I still love what I do. I still feel like I have the energy to do it. Maybe I was a little bit wrong when I made that assessment of this business.
So Dan, speaking about, having the energy and the longevity, right? Walk us through your thought process from going to owning successful Food and Fire. What made you want to open up Iron Agave here in downtown Binghamton?
Well, a little over 11 years ago, we opened up our first restaurant, Food and Fire in Johnson City, and I've got a great partnership with Jeff and with Jose, and we're a good three-headed beast to be running restaurants. We all have very unique skill sets, and our families care about each other. We care about each other, and that's part of that foundation that I talk about that's important to have in this business. But as far as branching out, we always kind of had our eyes on the downtown scene. In a lot of ways, downtown Binghamton is the heartbeat of the area. There's just a different culinary and art scene down here, and we weren't actively hunting, but we always had interest if the right opportunity occurred to be part of what's going on downtown. When Rick and Sil moved down here, that just kind of sweetened the pie for us to have somebody else down here who we respect and love to work with, and they said great things about being part of the community down here, and many other restaurateurs that we respect have places down here, and it's neat to be a part of it, and it just happened. It worked out for us, and the opportunity presented itself, and we felt it was the right move for us.
Absolutely. Just to preface to everybody out there, I am not a chef. I am here as the consumer of the three here, but I can say that, watching downtown change over the years and sort of be revitalized with a core group of amazing restaurants, it is very exciting as a consumer.
We all know kitchens can be crazy. Why don't you tell us a story, funny, stressful memory, I guess, of something that's happened in any of your restaurants?
I remember one time I was working in my first real kitchen job. It was a place called Galveston's in Rochester. This is not my kitchen, but they had a Sunday brunch, which I had never worked. I didn't know the menu at all. And I happened to show up to help out and learn the brunch, and I was the only line cook that day. So I learned how to cook brunch in a hurry. The servers were coming back and helping me figure out how to cook the food. I had no idea. It was an intensive brunch for me. We had French toast, we had chicken Hawaii, we had all kinds of stuff in there that I had never made before. This, ironically, was a Tex-Mex place. My first real kitchen job was a Tex-Mex restaurant, and I got through it somehow. I got through a brunch shift without any training, and it was just nuts to learn what you can learn on the fly, and I'm sure I made some mistakes. But here I am many, many years later doing Tex-Mex and doing brunch. So maybe something stuck.
So Dan, what menu item you really enjoy the most out of any of your restaurants?
Well, there's a lot of standards, right? I love our barbecue menu. I have food and fire. I mean, hook, blow, and slow. It's a brisket is just, there's nothing like a brisket. Time and temperature and seasoning and love. And so what happens to this nasty, weird cut of meat when it comes out of a smoker is magical. So, any of the brisket items that we have, any of the barbecue that we have, I want to mention one of the dishes over at Iron Agave that I'm particularly smitten with. And a lot of it is just because I love lamb. So we found a way to work it in. But there's not a lot of places that have a lamb dish on their menu. So we wanted to do some kind of a barbacoa. Now, barbacoa is just it's just a slow roasted process where you essentially braise a meat in a combination of chilies and spices, and it comes out with an earthy, wonderful flavor. And we traditionally see those as beef barbacoas on most menus.
All right.
The fact that I love lamb and the fact that we wanted to work it into the menu somewhere that was unique, we do a leg of lamb barbacoa taco over there.
Nice.
So that's one of our fun fusion-y things. And we have a little play off of gyro. By the way we set it up, it almost looks like a gyro would be served. We serve it with a crema instead of tzatziki sauce and pico instead of tomatoes. But it's got that look of kind of like a gyro, but it's definitely a Tex-Mex fusion taco, and it's one of my favorites. And my son Luke, I keep telling him to try something different. Gosh, it's all he gets when he goes there. So
That's all he wants. He knows what he wants.
With all kind of people.
yep.
Dan, was traditional sort of Tex-Mex always something you were interested in, right? Like when you jumped from like a smokehouse, right, very good barbecue, to a Tex-Mex, what sort of led that decision-making process for you?
Tex-Mex and barbecue are, well, they're linked. Hand in hand for sure, or hand in hand. They're neighbors. You're talking about the heavy influence that barbecue has on Tex-Mex cuisine. We use a lot of barbecue components in our Tex-Mex fusion kind of fun take on Tex-Mex food. So it was a natural progression to do that. We had 3 food and fires, and we wanted to do a different concept, and who doesn't love a taco? I mean, margaritas and tequila is still one of the fastest growing segments as far as bar drinks and cocktails go. So being a part of this awesome tequila trend and trying the different tequilas is fun too. Absolutely. It just clicked, and we knew that we could learn something new while incorporating some of the skills and things that we had learned running barbecue restaurants into what we were doing at Iron Agave too.
Easy transition to make for sure.
I don't know if it was easy, but it was a transition.
It is a transition. Fair enough.
It made sense, right?
Fair enough. Talk about your support system, right? Whether that's at home, your friends, your hobbies, right? How does that help you from not getting burned out so you can continue to, run thriving restaurants?
Sure. It's important to have a life outside this business. It becomes our life in a lot of ways, and it's becomes part of our personality and part of our persona. And I drive around town with food and fire truck, so everybody knows when I'm at a party. Right?
People know you're coming.
Everybody knows when I'm home. So it does become part of who you are, but it's important to have something away from the restaurant too. First of all, I've mentioned already my partners and we make sure that we maintain some work-life balance even through the crazy times. We have our discussions, we have our issues, and we work them out, and we support each other, and that's important. It's hard to remain friends in this business. I've seen it take a lot of friendships apart, and 11 years later, we still love each other and we still work for each other, and that's important. And I wouldn't change anything. I'd throw this all away before I lose those relationships with those guys.
I love that.
It's important.
And then do you see this becoming a family business for you in the future?
Well, in a way it is. My kids have worked some events and worked in the restaurants. I'd like to think they'll have different careers. The way they're going, it looks like they will. It was funny. They all had their little times when they were growing up, and they all thought they wanted to be chefs, which a little scared me and was lovable. But they have learned how to be hospitable and how to have a servant spirit and how to take care of other people in this business by working with me. And I'm fortunate. My kids have a great work ethic. They have good awareness of what people need, and I'm proud of them. They worked really hard when they do events with me, and I have no problem suiting them up and putting them out in front of people because they take pride in what we have. And that's cool. And even me and my wife's helped out at catering events. She's a old hospitality hand herself. Although she's in healthcare now, she's pitched in and done especially charitable events where you need to have a family presence there, and charities that we support, we'll do that as a family. And I love working elbow to elbow with my wife and my kids.
I love that. When it comes to community, right? What does it mean to not only serve the community great food, right? But when you think about, giving back to the community, right? What does that look like for you? And how does that drive some of your decision making, running multiple restaurants? The community loves your restaurants. What does that mean to you?
Sure. Well, one of the things when we sat down and talked about going into business together, being a community-driven business, being impactful to our community, and without local restaurants, so many of these fundraisers don't take place. The burden of supplying the food and things falls upon businesses that are involved in the community and care, and usually that's these privately owned places. So of course we're touched by the needs of our community and the different charities that are so worthwhile out there, and we happily do what we can when we can to support any fundraising initiative that's out there. If we're not doing that, then what are we doing this for? It's easy to be critical of restaurants, right? Especially when you leave and there's this whole movement about being honest with your review and everybody's a critic, and we like to read the feedback, we like to learn from it. But it's also important to remember that we're all doing our best. My staff's doing their best. We're all human beings, and sometimes, you have a right to talk about how your money was spent and your experience. But remember that, there's people involved, and we're out in the community doing good things too. And I guess what I'm saying is that we have hearts and souls too, and sometimes these cold reviews, they take a while to recover from. And I don't know why I turned this from a community discussion into that, but I guess part of it is that it's the good, the bad, the ugly of being part of the community, and we're ready for all of it. We're okay listening to the critiques and the criticism. That's the only way to get better.
Of course.
We also want people to remember, especially when you're talking about my staff and people who are maybe still learning and training, we're all human beings doing our best. We want you to have a great experience, but we drop the ball sometimes. But don't be mean to my staff.
Well said. Well said.
One of the things we're really proud of is that we recognize the need feeding families that have food insecurity, and we formed our Thanksgiving gift back that we do out of Food and Fire. We've done it for 5 years now. And in those 5 years, we have consistently served more and more people a hot meal delivered to their doorstep on Thanksgiving, every Thanksgiving day. And it's a little, I think it feels different when the doorbell rings and there's a hot meal there. There's a lot of great places where you can pick up a turkey, or you can go the day before, or go to somewhere. There's a few other places that go serve food in their respective hours or whatever. But to have someone who come to your home, ring a bell and say, hey, someone's thinking about you. Hope you have a wonderful day today, and hopefully this meal helps a little bit. For us, that's super impactful. And I'm really proud that we've been able to put the team together, the resources together to do something like that. That was kind of like a stretch when we first started planning it. How are we going to identify the families? How are we going to get this delivered to them? And we did it, and we rely on social workers and different school projects, and we get it done. And we're very, very proud of that. It's an important thing we do.
That is awesome, Dan. That is just incredible. Give us a sense of your take on, current food trends in your restaurant specifically, and, maybe even any sort of bar trends that you're seeing. Obviously, you have a ton of tequilas. Tequila's really having a moment. We're always curious, what are you seeing out there trend-wise?
One of the interesting things for me is whenever I travel, especially when I go to the city or to New York or something, it's interesting to try to see what's coming, because usually here in Binghamton, the trends take some time, but you see them elsewhere, and then eventually they're over here. And I was walking down the city, during the holiday season, and I looked at a couple of restaurants, and I saw people eating like very small tapas-sized plates of food. And here in Binghamton, I think we're still largely driven by plate coverage and content and how much value are we getting. And I think especially if you're going to offer fresh food and homemade food, especially, these prices of food are relentlessly, up and down, mostly up. I think you have to, balance value with, reasonable portion sizes. I don't think everybody wants a huge mountain of fruit all the time. Yeah, so you could do a nice, fresh, average size plate of food now. And, some of our menu redos are going to reflect some of that. The ability to come in and have a reasonable size lunch that is priced accordingly, and I think still people are really interested in fresh homemade ingredients too. I think it matters.
Absolutely.
So when you have something that comes out of a can versus something that you're making fresh on site, and we take pride in that, but also I think definitely translates to the plate. It's very hard to do non-homemade items and then hold up the quality piece that people expect.
What about on the bar side? What are you seeing in the tequila world? Anything interesting?
Sure. Tequila continues to be hot, and we know that it's very trendy. People are realizing, especially with some of the aged tequilas and the añejos, that there's such a depth to sipping on those things. It's not like when we grow up doing shots of Cuervo.
That's how we grew up. Yeah, that's how I grew up at least. That's
A lot of people still shudder when I mention tequila. It's like, well, come on in and learn something new. And we've actually put together a passport that you can come in and you can check off different tequilas, and that kind of earn your stripes learning about the different sorts of tequilas, and also mezcals. Mezcals are so much fun too. These smoky things, you can make some fun cocktails out of those. And
absolutely.
We have a mezcal old fashioned on our drink menu. It's pretty popular.
It's delicious. I've had it before.
Yep.
What's your personal favorite tequila?
I really don't have a favorite. My kids ask me this all the time. I have a problem.
I don't have favorites. I have situational favorites. Fair enough. Right? So tequilas that make great margaritas. I like Terramana. It's a nice tequila. Me and the rocker buddies. You spell what I'm cooking. But it's a good tequila to make a margarita out of.
What about your sipping tequilas?
I would say almost any añejo I love. They don't even taste like tequila anymore. They have so much depth to them. I like ones that have a little bit of residual sweetness. I like the sherry cask finish on a scotch. It's the same deal. These are so sweet, and you can just put one cube on them and savor them and enjoy them with a cigar. I mean, they're creating some incredible flavors in these spirits anymore.
What are you seeing in the wine world? What do you guys like for your restaurants?
Well, we've always said, as you know, Food and Fire hangs its hat on its craft beers. We have 40 on tap, 50 on tap down in Aroostook, actually. So we're kind of always been more of a craft beer focus. But we've always said we want to have a thoughtful wine list. And Jeff and I, and Jose, we enjoy a nice glass of wine. So you're not going to find any box wine in our places. We put a thoughtful wine list together that's approachable. We don't have a huge book for wine lists. We have we like our big reds, so we'll have some cabs and some nice red blends that can stand up to the smokiness and the flavor of barbecue. And same deal over at Agave, where we're known more for our spirits and for our cocktails and our tequila. But again, we have some nice reds over there too if you're in the mood for a glass of wine. So my business partner, Jeff, likes to be the steward of our wine list, and he does a good job. And we work with our reps and try to keep a nice list over there for the people who are looking for a good bottle.
Dan's the only restaurateur that I walk in his parking lot. He's on his way home. He goes, "Hey, Rick, take this bottle of red wine with you."
That's always a good thing.
Gotta show the love.
That brings us, Dan, to our rapid fire round. We have a few sort of lightning round questions for you, right? Some fun ones. We're always curious to hear our guests' take on certain things. Your favorite guilty pleasure food? What is that?
My wife would know this one in a second. I could probably order wings every day of the week.
I don't know. I'm with you there. I'm a chicken wing guy. There was one point in time, I think around the holidays, my wife looked at me and she said, "Wings again?" I'm like, "Yep."
Wings always.
With the team or not. But yeah, there's so many places. We're fortunate around here. We have so many places that have awesome wings too.
I would say some of the best wings in the entirety of upstate New York, including Buffalo.
I sometimes don't know where to order from. It's a tough problem to have, right?
Are you a spicy wing fan?
Oh yeah. Very hot of the spicy wings. I love all the different flavors. I love our smoked wings. There's something different.
Oh, the smoked wings. Yes, the Food and Fire wings are some of my favorites. What is the most overrated ingredient these days?
This is a tough one. I want to say chicken because everything's chicken, right? And a lot of chicken. Chicken, now we have chicken finger places. You've got chicken and everything. But it's also so versatile and it's healthy. So everyone has to have chicken on their menu. And there's a lot of other culture to focus on. But then again, I just told you I love chicken wings. So what am I doing here? I want to say American condiments. For some reason, like growing up, I'd put relish, A1, mayonnaise, mustard. I'd load up my sandwiches with all this stuff. And I think maybe, I like simpler, more elegant flavors now, and I don't need to have all that crazy sauce on something. A good burger doesn't need it all. I might put a little something, a little A1, a little mayonnaise or something on there if I'm feeling it, but hot dogs loaded with 7 different condiments and a burger that's overwhelmed with 4 or 5 different sauces. I think maybe it's a little bit of an overkill when you're starting out with a really nice product.
I think that, the simplicity a lot of times does win out at the end. What is a kitchen tool that you cannot live without? That could be at home and in the quote-unquote office.
Okay, there's an easy answer, and that's, of course, a chef knife, right? You need a chef knife, of course. One of the first things I was taught in that restaurant, Galveston's, the GM took me under his wing and said, I'm going to teach you how to use a knife. And he taught me how to use a knife right away. And he's like, whether or not you stay with me, whether or not you stay in this business, you'll be happier if you know how to use a chef knife. And I learned the rudimentary beginnings of how to operate a chef knife with him. But that's a cheat answer. My answer is kitchen shears. I use kitchen shears for everything. I use them even like sometimes I'll eat with them like chopsticks. I think part of it is that my wife's family is Korean, and Koreans use kitchen shears for a lot of different things in the kitchen.
Yeah.
And I literally have probably 8 pairs of kitchen shears. It's like a fork for me. So in my kitchen and in the restaurants, kitchen shears, they're awesome. I don't know. You can use them for anything.
Well, I'm going to pass it to Rick now. Rick is going to take us into our mystery ingredient challenge. Rick, what are the ingredients today?
Well, this was a hard one, Dan, but we came up with mussels and tomatillas for you to try to create something in your mind for us.
Okay, I was afraid it was going to be like rabbit shanks and jelly beans or something. So I don't know. This is easy.
We were talking about venison, but
Yeah, venison's good. Especially, listen, when you got a smoker, almost anything can work. So let's talk about mussels. I freaking love mussels. I feel like this was it's almost a cheat answer because I cook mussels all the time. I was actually on the competitive circuit doing some competition chili cooking for a few years, and went to Terlingua, Texas, and had a lot of fun traveling around and doing chili cook-offs. And one of the chilies I entered in the open category was actually called Mussel Man chili, and it was a green tomatillo chili based with mussels in it. So I could absolutely do that. Now, what I would do right now, I love mussels with there's so many ways you can open them up, and you can cook them. You can release all different kinds of flavors. You can use a wine if you want something elegant and some different herbs. You can go with beer and heavy cheese and make it like a pub food. For this one, I would probably do an easy green chili base, some chilies. Of course, roast the tomatillos off, pulse them up, get a nice base going in there. I would probably use a Dos Equis or a Modelo beer to hit the mussels with, get some of the liquor release from those bivalves opening up, finish it off with your green chili base, and maybe top it with some esquites or something to make it like a little a mussel green chili. Throw some black beans or some white beans in there if you want to carb it up a little bit, and boom, mussels are awesome, man. You can do anything with those. That's a good one.
How do we get to try the Mussel Man chili?
I actually have been talking to James, who's also our GM and a chef, about bringing some mussels in and playing around with that. So I'll invite you guys over for the mussel experiment.
I will be there. Cool. Well, Dan, it's been a real pleasure talking to you today. You are the first Stircast guest. Congratulations. And it was a great conversation. We thank you for your time today.
yes, Stan, thank you so much.
Appreciate you letting me break the ice on this. This is a great thing. Look forward to listening to what my fellow restaurant folk have to say, and you're going to have a great time with this. Thanks. It's a great idea.
Stircast is a podcast supported by Southern Tier Independent Restaurants. We are a community-driven nonprofit serving Broome County over 10 years. Our local restaurant affiliates have been giving back to the community through scholarships for culinary students, BOCES, and BCC, supporting numerous local events, Philharmonic, Roberson, Mercy House, Speedy Cooking Contest and Balloon Rally, the American Heart Association, just to name a few. Not to mention all the tens and thousands of dollars in gift certificates donated for individuals in our community to support their fundraisers for those in need. Our goal with this podcast is to reach a wide audience with conversations with local chefs and restaurant owners telling the behind-the-scenes stories. We want to create an interest and a buzz about our local restaurant scene. We'll be asking our listeners to let us know what they want to hear about. Hopefully, our listenership will grow and the word will spread about the diverse landscape of culinary gems we have in our community. We hope our restaurants will see new guests coming through their doors. Stircast is edited and mixed by Gabe Tenenhouse at House Media Systems. Thank you to Lori and Mark Newman for their generous support. Thank you to Muckles for their generous promotional support. And thank you to Bud Ash for our fabulous Stircast music. If you're interested in sponsoring Stircast and supporting Stir's mission, reach out to us on stir-local.com.